I am out here in the front garden bed with my 2-year-old Florance Fennel plant, and I know that I have included some of this information before, but I'm pretty obsessed with this fennel plant and how many bulbs it's produced, because I always thought that fennel was just a one and done kind of plant, and it can be where you just hill up around this bulb and allow it to swell up and then harvest it. So it can be grown as an annual, especially in cooler climates. However, we are in Texas Zone 9A, so I've been able to just let this fennel grow, and the entire plant is edible. All of these ferns are edible, the seeds are edible. It's a really wonderful plant, and it smells kind of like anise or licorice. However, I have family members that don't eat licorice, so I'm able to boil it, and it removes all of the licorice flavor. However, my favorite way to cook it is to take these stems before they get woody and cut them up into 1 or 2 inch strips and put them in a very thick sugar syrup and turn it into a licorice flavored candy for myself, which is really cool because I get the nutrients from this and I still have the sugar, which you can use some kind of sugar substitute. I'm just not sure it would have quite the same effect. Maybe using like Truvia or Pure that is kind of has the same consistency as sugar would probably be the best option for sugar-free candy, but I like to do that. But also I can use these stems as a fern for tea, and it's not too strong. It does have that licorice smell and slight taste, but it's a really nice tea. And another thing that it can be used for, like I said, is it can be chopped up and boiled for people that don't like it, and it's really good filler for soups and everything else. Now, if you love a slight licorice flavor, it could be really good in all of that. But I will warn you, there are certain times in the year, especially when it starts to flower, that the flavor can get really strong really quickly. Now, fennel propagates in a couple of ways. One of the way, now this is Florance Fennel, so it is a bulbing fennel, but you can save the seeds, which there aren't currently any seed heads on this plant. However, there are all these bulbs at the bottom, and these can be dug out and made into each individual plants, which is really amazing. And you just have to make sure when you're doing so that you get enough of the bulb that it has some root system to it. And I don't currently have a place to transplant this, so I don't want to pull up these bulbs quite yet. How amazing this. But I will show you a place where I did pull up bulbs with a little bit of root attached. And you can just twist these out. They grow so easily. And this one has many bulbs. Now, in the past, I've made some videos over our Florance Fennel and shown just how many bulbs can be harvested off of one fennel when it's grown as a perennial. The bulbs will not be nearly as big as when you grow it as an annual, and it's unlikely that you'll be able to grow this plant as a perennial in a cooler climate. I find that it does really well in warmer climates like ours, and in cooler climates it's just really good as an annual crop. Now, your fennel can do really well by itself and have more room to kind of grow out, but I'm growing mine in my mixed perennial bed, so you can see all of these flowers growing around it. And I'll just simply pull some of them up whenever they get too close and clear it out some, giving the fennel bulb more room, but it really hasn't caused any damage to the fennel. And here it is kind of starting to produce. Now, this is just one of the little bulbs that I picked up and I moved, so you can kind of see a good example here. And there's actually another one way down here. Now, the funny thing is that when I first started growing fennel, I just happened to get a couple of organic starts from the local grocery store, and I read that if you grow fennel around other plants, which you can see there are all sorts of plants in here growing in this raised bed, and they are all doing well except for this rosemary that was killed by the freeze, but I left it in there. And they are growing all around all of my fennel, all around. I even have turnips growing and producing roots right under this tree by my fennel plants. And you can see the bulbs starting to form. And they are doing wonderfully. They are not being poisoned or killed off by the fennel. And I heard that fennel is not kind to other plants, and it produces chemicals that will kill all your other plants. And here you can see where the fennel is just seeded and created new plants. And also here I used to have another fennel that, here's the remainder of it, that was 2 years old. It was the first plant I planted, and this was the second. And it did not make it through this winter. It has seeded several times, and this final seeding, it produced all of these baby fennel everywhere. And they're even producing outside of this bed, where we're creating a new bed down here, and also over here way in the walkway. The seeds broadcasted in the wind and from the animals and started growing there. So you can see that you actually have a lot more leniency in growing bulbing fennel than you may have thought, because I thought there were a lot of strict rules and I had to do it a certain way. But it turns out when you have the ability to kind of experiment, you have a lot more options available to you. So these are growing close together, so they'll probably need to be thinned out. And in order to get your fennel to bulb, you can see the fennel right here, you kind of have to cover it, hill it up, just the same as you would potatoes around it, and it'll kind of force it to bulb. Now, I do not have a place for all of these baby fennel plants. And so I'm leaving them here for now to kind of grow, and all of these bulbs, which I will harvest a couple bulbs to make room for the rest of them to fill out. But my goal is to get another garden bed over here at some point, probably right in here, that will allow me to let my fennel grow, and I'll just be able to transplant some of these smaller plants or even cut off some bulbs and do that. So it's going to give me a lot of options, but I just kind of wanted to show off my fennel plants up here and show you that they can grow with other plants, they can do pretty well, and also you don't have to worry about all of the rules that you hear when it comes to fennel. Yes, if you want it to bulb and produce a large bulb, it is easier and better if you have it kind of separated out and space in between them, and I'll hill it up, allow it to bulb. But you can grow it as a perennial in warmer climates, and you can let multiple bulbs produce. This is just one plant, and it's a 2-year-old plant. It has actually produced many seeds and many bulbs. This plant specifically is responsible for all of the fennel that's growing within these flowers to my left, and this is the original fennel plant that has created all of this that has gone into the other beds. So from this, I literally just in this one section have over 50 different baby plants growing, even over here into the carrots and arugula, and also some flowers. So it's amazing if you invest in a good quality plant, even if that plant is $4 from your local grocery store. For me, it was $8 for 2 organic plants, which was a lot of money for me, but I thought, let's just see if I can get some seed from it. And now I have all of these plants, which I know will produce quality seed and quality bulbs, and I can easily transplant them out. So it's just a really cool way that you can get the plants that you want, especially fennel, and maybe propagate it in the same way I did. Now, all this that's put in here is mushroom compost, and it's been allowed to break down, and then I just, over time, as it breaks down and turns into soil, as you can see underneath, now this is really dry, I do need to water. Underneath it's kind of created soil, and what I've done is just add a little bit of mushroom compost on top every time that the soil gets really low and is broken down into earth. And this bed is 12 inches deep, and it has contact with the ground. I did not have to lay cardboard down or anything because it was 12 inches deep, and that smothered out the grass. Now you can lay down contract paper, cardboard, you can put wood mulch in the very bottom. I wouldn't recommend more than 1 inch or 2 just to get you started, because it's unlikely that plants like fennel are going to dig that deep down into the ground immediately. But it just gives you some options, kind of shows you what's available. And I really love this fennel plant. I love walking by and smelling the licorice and anise flavor. I love the sweetness to it. I love that every part of the plant is edible, that I can spread out the bulbs, get multiple bulbs, and even that it broadcasts seeds and produce more plant starts for me. So I hope this kind of encourages you to buy whatever's available to you and see what you can grow, because who knows, you could end up with an entire bed of fennel just like I did.